Okay. About 6 months ago, I got an email from somebody who's probably in this audience. I don't know who it was. But she asked me to please review the Ontario sex ed curriculum and to write something up about it. Well, that type of thing takes a very long time. It takes many hours. I've done it before. I did it for New York City, and I did it for New Zealand and for other places, and it's extremely time-consuming. So I had to just say, I'm sorry, but I can't do it. 3 months later, someone else contacted me. We really need you up here. Please, can you come? I looked at my schedule. It just wasn't doable. About a month ago, I get another email. Dr. Grossman, you must come up here. I started to do some reading to find out what's the story up here. And I learned that the sex ed curriculum was first introduced in 2010. It was canceled after parents protested. There was a promise to rethink and talk with parents, but apparently that was not done in any genuine manner. And now, the curriculum, here it is right here, is back, and it will be in place, I understand, next month. I read about the huge rallies that you had with thousands of people. You have a website, a Facebook site, protesting this curriculum with 14,000 likes on it. You have a petition with 18,000 signatures, and in May you did that school boycott and kept kids home, 20,000 students home in protest. That is amazing. I have been to many, many communities who, like you, are outraged about the sex ed curricula that are being introduced to their schools all over the United States, in the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia. I have never seen anything like this. And I'm told that aside from a few journalists who are not mainstream, and one or maybe two members of parliament, your objections are ignored. And the underlying message is that anyone who disagrees with this curriculum must be uneducated or a bigot. Furthermore, the creators of this curriculum, and evidently one of them is in jail for sexual crimes against children, the creators and supporters of this curriculum see themselves as noble and compassionate. They care about your children, and you parents who are fighting this, you're the problem. So I absorbed all of this information for about 24 hours, especially the phenomenal grassroots campaign. And I decided, I'm going to Toronto. You may think that I'm here because the organizers found my work and they were impressed with me. I'm here because I discovered your work and I'm impressed with you. I have reviewed the curriculum for ages 1 through 8, grades 1 through 8. I have not looked at the high school one. If I did, I'm sure I'd have another few hours to talk. The parts about diet, alcohol, smoking, and a lot of other things, it's actually quite good. The priority when they talk about those things is health. For students to stay free of disease and distress. The language is straightforward. There's no nonsense. There's lots of facts, even if those facts are hard to hear. The tone is firm and authoritative. We adults know more than you, and we are warning you about the consequences of unhealthy choices. Don't smoke, don't drink, avoid junky food and sodas, be smart, control your appetite. You can do it. And if you don't, well, there may be a price to pay. Then you move on to the area called human development and sexual health. The approach here is altogether different. The priority is not your child's health. The priority is to mold your child's thinking and attitudes so that they respect and affirm and are comfortable with all sexual choices and lifestyles. This curriculum, like so many produced by the sex ed industry, is based on a specific view of the world. Not the world as it is, mind you, but the world as it should be. The world should be fair. When it comes to sexually transmitted infections, for example, no one group should suffer more than another as a result of their choices. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, and other infections, they should infect people in a random manner, unassociated with behavior. Male and female in this ideal vision of the world should be the same. Mothers and fathers should be the same. It's not fair otherwise. And no one family structure should be better for children either. 2 mothers, 2 fathers, a father and a mother, a donated egg, donated sperm, surrogacy, it shouldn't matter. I call this the Marxist approach to human development. There is a significant flaw with this approach. It's not based in reality. It's a dream. If you look at hard science, biology, physiology, neuroscience, infectious diseases, you find, without any question, that there are very significant differences. Girls and men who have sex with other men have much higher rates of infections. Anal intercourse is much more risky than vaginal intercourse. I'll explain all that in a moment. Children raised without a mother or a father, or who were created with donated eggs or sperm, many of them have emotional issues to deal with. That's reality. Reality is not fair. Reality is not fair, and part of growing up and becoming an adult is realizing that life is not fair. We, as responsible adults, have to deal with real life and teach children biological truths that could save their lives. We can't, for the sake of an idealistic vision of how the world should be in someone's mind, sacrifice the health and, yes, sometimes the lives of young people. And I have to say that that is what's going on in this curriculum. So I'm here to provide you with ammunition in your battle. I can't address all the problems in this curriculum in terms of the sex education, but I'm going to try to address a lot of the major ones. First, I want to tell you just a little bit about me. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, and I worked for many, many years, 12 years, on one of the largest campuses in the United States called UCLA. I saw thousands and thousands of students there. Many of them, especially the young women, were suffering due to the sexual choices that they had made. Their suffering was one 100% avoidable. Not only infections, but they had had one or more abortions. They lived in fear of having HIV or cervical cancer. They were confused about their the relationships with their casual hooking up with people. It was affecting their life, their sleeping habits, their studying. Their grades went down, and some of them got depressed and even suicidal. It's very frustrating as a doctor to see young people in the prime of their lives, bright, ambitious, successful young people with their lives in front of them, suffering in ways that could have been avoided. And when I spoke to them and discussed some of the science that I'm about to explain to you, they would say to me, "Why didn't I know that? Why didn't anybody tell me?" I concluded that my profession, the medical profession, is failing young people. I wrote a book called Unprotected. A campus psychiatrist reveals how political correctness in her profession endangers every student. Each chapter in this book describes an actual student or a number of students who came to me for a specific issue and how, due to the politics and the agendas in my profession, their suffering was increased. After that, I wrote another book specifically about sex education, and it's called You're Teaching My Child What? Now let's turn to the curriculum. First, I want to address an issue that I know bothers many of you, and that's age appropriateness. What is age appropriate? How much do we say? When do we say it? How do we say it? There's a story I heard of a little boy who came to his father one day and said, "Dad, where do I come from?" His father took a deep breath, and he thought to himself, okay, this is it, the big question, the big conversation. And he sat down with his little son and explained everything from A to Z, every detail. And at the end, his son had sat quietly listening. He says, "Well, that's where you come from. Do you have any questions?" His son looked up at him and said, "Well, that's funny, because Johnny told me that he came from Montreal." In your curriculum on page 93, it says that kids in grade 1 should be able to identify their body parts, including their genitalia, using correct terminology. We talk about all body parts with respect. Why is it important? The teacher can ask, why is it important to know about your own body and use correct names for the parts of your body? The student can answer, all parts of my body are a part of me, and I need to know how to take care of and talk about my own body. If I'm hurt or need help, and I know the right words, other people will know what I'm talking about. Now, first grade, that's 6 years old. In case you don't have a 6-year-old in your life, here's what they look like. Here's a 6-year-old. Here's a 6-year-old. Another 6-year-old. And finally, a 6-year-old. They're very little. And they're innocent. Their innocence has value. Their innocence is precious. A child's innocence and sensitivity and modesty come naturally and should be protected. My professional opinion is that it's not necessary to teach these terms to a 6-year-old, especially if the parents aren't comfortable with it. I promise you, this little girl's self-esteem is not going to suffer because she can't identify her vulva. Trust me. If the issue here is preventing child abuse, then what you do is you explain to your child that we all have private parts. Those are the parts that are covered by your bathing suit. Very simple, common sense. Anyone who wants to see or touch you there, that's a bad person. You scream, run away, and tell us as soon as you can. But you don't have to take my word for it. Maybe I'm a religious extremist or something. Look at what the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and this is the mainstream organization of child and adolescent psychiatrists in the United States. This is what they say about talking to your kids about sex. Many children have their own words for body parts. It is important to find out words they know and are comfortable with, to make talking with them easier. Parents should respond to the needs and curiosity level of their individual child, offering no more or less information than their child is asking for and is able to understand. Now, I don't agree with the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry about a number of things, but this is one instance where they are spot on. Perhaps a copy of this document, which I can provide to you, should be passed along to Kathleen Wynne. What's really going on here with this curriculum is an attempt to desensitize children. The ideology that animates the curriculum confuses sensitivity and modesty with shame and negative self-image, but there's a big, big difference. Now, I want to move on and look at how the curriculum deals with health issues such as smoking and alcohol. Nicotine for grade 4 is very addictive and is absorbed quickly in your body. The craving for nicotine can make a person very uncomfortable, and that can be stressful. Tar is made up of thousands of chemicals that can cause cancer and other illnesses. Smoking, the short-term effects, bad breath, bad clothing and hair odors, possibly problems with family and friends, arguments with parents. Young people who smoke are more likely to be less active, to try other drugs, not do well at school, addiction, yellow teeth, getting out of breath easily, etc., respiratory disease, lung or oral cancer. Alcohol. Again, a long list: higher body temperature, slower reflexes, drowsiness, lowered inhibitions. You can read it, slurred speech, so on and so on and so forth. Now let's look at the guidance for sexual relationships. In grade 6, what should you consider when making any decision regarding a relationship? My comfort level, my personal and family values, my personal limits, and the limits and comfort of others are some of the things I should consider. As if a 6th grader can possibly know that. This is not developmentally appropriate. To determine one's comfort level, your personal and family values, your personal limits, and the limits and comfort of others, these are things that adults struggle with.